Food security and particular political systems. The cause of sudden famines is very complicated, but evidence suggests a correlation between famine and non-democratic political systems. In democratic societies, there is more accountability and powerful interest groups, which lessens the chance for famine. Welcome to SUYA e-learning for food security, climate change, school feeding program, nutrition education for all. When you have bad governance and poor accountability from your local government leaders, then you are doomed to live under control of cartels and fools. We hope you subscribe to our channel YouTube at SUYA Mombasa and share this links with your friends or family. Attaining food security is a complex task for which the primary responsibility rests with individual governments. They have to develop an enabling environment and have policies that ensure peace, as well as social, political and economic stability and equity and gender equality. It has been argued that a right-to-food approach to food security is not based on vague and replaceable policy goals subject to periodic redefinition, but on existing, comparatively specific and continuously becoming more precise obligations undertaken by governments. Kenya has had a long and calamitous history of political violence and corruption since it gained independence from British colonial rule in 1963. Much of this conflict is rooted in ethnic tensions between different tribes, which many historians attribute, in part, to decades of British colonial rule that intentionally played major tribes against one another. In this year's presidential election, the Kikuyus and Luos were once again competing for the highest office in the land. During the first devolution cycle, we laid the foundation. On this second cycle of devolution, we will emphasize on development.
The Kolro Strategic Plan outlines initiatives aimed at enhancing agricultural productivity, improving market access, promoting sustainable farming practices and fostering innovation across the sector. Through targeted innovations and collaborative efforts, the plan aims to empower farmers, increase resilience to climate change, and ultimately drive positive change in the agriculture sector.
An estimated more than $4 billion in soil nutrients is lost each year. However, many African farmers still do not have access to fertilizers or cannot afford the inputs required to bring life back into their soils and halt the downward spiral of environmental deterioration. Empty soils, empty stomachs, empty livelihoods. "34 African heads of state and government along with scores of ministers and international partners came together in Dakar to mobilize investment and move forward plans to harness Africa's immense agricultural potential. Technology is key to transformation. Many of the presidents at Dakar too said that technology was key to increasing farmer yields across Africa. Although 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa, smallholders would not need to cut down forests if they were able to increase the productivity on their existing farms. Where is dolomite found in Kenya? Kajiado County in Kenya lies at the southern edge of the former Rift Valley province, about 80 kilometers from Nairobi. The county has a diverse topography ranging from volcanic hills and valleys to expansive plains. Among the major economic activities in Kajiado is quarrying, where we source our calcium carbonate, dolomite. What is the purpose of adding dolomite in soil? A basic ingredient of most potting mixes used in foliage plant production is peat, which tends to be acidic. Dolomite is added to growing medium to raise pH to the range of 5.5 to 6.5 and to supply plants with calcium and magnesium needed for healthy growth. Which plants like dolomite? Others need lime added to keep substrates like bark from rotting over time. These include orchids, African violets, Hoya, peperomia, kalanchoe, spider plants, ivy, tomatoes, apples, lemons, peppers, pears. What is the agricultural use of dolomite? Dolomite powder for agriculture industry. Dolomite powder in agriculture grade is used as a soil neutralizer, conditioner to correct acidity. It is also used as a filler in fertilizers. The main ingredient is calcium carbonate, which helps raise the pH of acidic soils and provides a good calcium source for plants. What is the difference between gypsum and dolomite? Dolomite, calcium magnesium carbonate similar to garden lime but slower acting. Also contains magnesium carbonate so good for trees like apples and pears. Gypsum, calcium sulfate. Great for acid-loving plants, like rhododendrons, as it adds calcium to ground without altering soil pH. The beneficial effects of seaweed are mostly due to the presence of minerals, vitamins, phenols, polysaccharides, and sterols, as well as several other bioactive compounds. These compounds seem to have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antimicrobial, and anti-diabetic activities. Marine macroalgae, sometimes known as seaweeds, are microscopic, multicellular, photosynthetic eukaryotic creatures. Based on their coloration and depending on their taxonomic classification, they can be classified into three groups: Rhodophyta, red, Phaeophyceae, brown, and Chlorophyta, green. The currently changing climates and environments place plants under many types of stresses that affect both their survival and levels of chemical defenses. Auxins are a group of naturally occurring and artificially synthesized plant hormones. They play an important role in the regulation of plant growth. Auxin, a plant hormone, regulates virtually every aspect of plant growth and development. The 2010 Constitution guarantees the principle of public participation and freedom of information and underscores the right of citizens to present any issue before Parliament. The other centerpiece of the 2010 Constitution was the devolution of power to Kenya's 47 county governments. County governments represent the level of government closest to the people, therefore, they directly influence the effectiveness of policies and strategies at a local level. Coordination. An effective policymaking process should involve coordination among different government agencies and departments to ensure policies align with other government priorities and objectives. Although coordination mechanisms are in place, their effectiveness has been less than optimal. Food security operates within a neoliberal framework, prioritizing large-scale production, market distribution, and corporate involvement to increase global food availability. In contrast, food sovereignty emphasizes localized, community-controlled food systems to address the shortcomings of food security. What are the four pillars of Food security is essentially built on four pillars: availability, access, utilization, and stability. An individual must have access to sufficient food of the right dietary mix, quality, at all times to be food secure. Those who never have sufficient quality food are chronically food insecure. Food of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through socially just, ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their collective right to define their own policies, strategies, and systems for food production, distribution and consumption. Kilifi, Kenya. Rabai is well known in the books of history as the place where Christianity and modern learning in Kenya started in 1846. Dr. Krapf, an explorer, linguistic and traveler, wrote the first dictionary of the Swahili language and translated the sections of the Bible into Kiswahili, Kinyuka, and the Kikamba languages. Area, Kilifi position of farmers, no diversity of crops for local and export market. Lifestyle of people and earning capacity of community unchanged 1846 to 2024, 178 years.
From a point of view, the statement itself suggests that people with right attitude and choices can escape poverty. Implicitly, this also means that people are poor because they aren't working hard and they once made bad choices and decisions that landed them in poverty and kept them there. Poverty is a state of mind that can be changed by self-belief. Staying happy with the bare minimum and having a rich mindset will be effective. We can focus on things we have rather than those we want to have. Happiness can be attained without a huge amount of money.
How Kenya's evangelical president has fallen out with churches. William Ruto, who became Kenya's president 2 years ago riding on the crest of the Christian vote, has been visibly shaken to find that over the last few months church leaders of all creeds are losing faith in him, seeing him less as a savior and more as the greedy biblical tax collector. Baptized him Deputy Jesus, accusing him of using Christianity to gain political capital as he attended church services from Catholic masses to the gatherings of obscure sects. He would wear the appropriate religious attire for each setting, sometimes knelt in supplication and on occasion was moved to tears by sermons. Afterwards, he credited success, and continued this practice of crisscrossing the country to attend a different church each Sunday. Anglican Church of Kenya, ACK, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, while speaking in a multi-sectoral initiative against corruption in 2019, warned ACK clerics against accepting corrupt money. "Let us not allow Harambee money to become a subtle way to sanitize corrupt leaders," said Sapit. Educators and trainers are powerful agents of change in helping to remake the education sector to address sustainability and enhance the role of education and learning in sustainable development projects and initiatives. Teachers can be a tremendous force brought to the task, as teachers worldwide number around 70 million, and the core of trainers and informal educators is virtually countless. But for educators and trainers to help usher in the transition to a sustainable society, they themselves must first become confident in practicing ESD, UNESCO, 2014. They must be empowered to facilitate confidently and effectively students, trainees, and other learners to acquire the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to contribute to sustainable development. They themselves need to acquire knowledge about, commitment to, and motivation for sustainable development. inspiring the next new generation of growers and eaters. Value additions. Not every student is going to grow up to be a farmer, but we believe that everyone should understand where their food comes from and make healthy choices about how to fuel their bodies. That's why we're excited to create a community of teachers, community members, and school administrators who share a common goal of helping kids develop healthy eating habits. We're committed to creating engaging, hands-on learning experiences that connect students to the earth, their food, and each other, all while integrating classroom concepts in subjects from language arts to STEM. There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oren Lyons. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family. Or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment, food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities. One, the African Children's Charter, as supervised by the African Children's Committee, provides an effective continental framework for advancing children's rights. 2. An effective child-friendly national legislative, policy and institutional framework is in place in all counties. 3. Every child's birth statistics. 4. Every child has a healthy childhood. 5. Every child grows up well, nourished and with access to the necessities of life. 6. Every child benefits from quality education. 7. Every child is protected against violence, exploitation, neglect and abuse. Children do not benefit from drug abuse. 9. Every child is free from the impact of conflict. In 2009, the school meal program was restructured into a more sustainable and nationally owned home-grown school meals program, HGSMP, which prioritizes the local food supply to schools. Under the HGSMP, the government disburses funds directly to schools and provides guidelines in key aspects of school: the nutritional composition of food baskets, adequate procurement processes, and monitoring evaluation. The schools then bear the responsibility of procuring foods that are locally produced and culturally acceptable. Financial constraints, including insufficient government funding and delays in fee payments from parents, often hinder schools' ability to meals. As a result, most of the school's meals have little diversity. They mainly include cereal, are often deficient in fruits, vegetables, and protein that are important sources of nutrients required for optimal growth and development of children and adolescents. The vision of the World Food Programme, WFP, is to reduce hunger among school children, so that hunger is not an obstacle to their development. The school feeding program is a significant intervention by WFP to help reduce vulnerability to hunger and protect and promote livelihoods by investing in human capital through better health, nutrition, and education. WFP has worked with governments and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, on school feeding programs for more than 45 years. Children start life as totally dependent beings. Children must rely on adults for the nurture and guidance they need to grow towards independence. Such nurture is ideally found from adults in children's families, but when primary adult caregivers cannot meet children's needs, it is up to the state as the primary duty bearer to find an alternative in the best interests of the child. Growing your own food is the most sustainable way to feed yourself and your family. When we grow our own food, we eat seasonally, locally, and sustainably. Growing your own food is like taking a master class in nutrition. Starting a garden. If you have a garden in your library, everything will be complete. Marcus Tullius Cicero. Life begins the day you start a garden. Chinese proverb. There are always flowers for those who want to see them. Henri Matisse. He who plants a garden plants happiness. Chinese proverb. More grows in the garden than the gardener sows. Spanish proverb. Gardening is cheaper than therapy, and you get tomatoes. Gardening is easy. Stick it in the ground the right way up and most plants will grow perfectly well. Monty Don. Most plants taste better when they've had to suffer a little. Deanna Kennedy. Some schools have established school gardens to supplement the school meal program, but inadequate space, farming inputs, and poor attitude, knowledge, and skills in farming hinder school gardening and optimal production for those who are already implementing school farm. Lack or inadequate school meal infrastructure and facilities such as storage facility and energy-saving methods, dining spaces, and water supply also impede the implementation of school meal programs. Schools with poor or inadequate storage facilities often experience food spoilage and wastage and have to procure perishable goods on a daily basis and discard any food remains, which is non-economical and inconvenient. An intermittent water supply to schools also is a key challenge in implementing the school meal program, especially for schools that have not installed water storage facilities. In such cases, water shortage compromises food safety and hygiene, increase the risks of contamination and food poisoning to the children. Children and young people have the same general human rights as adults and also specific rights that recognize their special needs. Children are neither the property of their parents nor are they helpless objects of charity. They are human beings and are the subject of their own rights. The Convention on the Rights of the Child sets out the rights that must be realized for children to develop to their full potential.
From a point of view, the statement itself suggests that people with right attitude and choices can escape poverty. Implicitly, this also means that people are poor because they aren't working hard and they once made bad choices and decisions that landed them in poverty and kept them there. Poverty is a state of mind that can be changed by self-belief. Staying happy with the bare minimum and having a rich mindset will be effective. We can focus on things we have rather than those we want to have. Happiness can be attained without a huge amount of money.
What are the effects of high temperature on crops? High temperature, even for short period, affects crop growth, especially in temperate crops like wheat. High air temperature reduces the growth of shoots and in turn reduces root growth. High soil temperature is more crucial as damage to the roots is severe, resulting in substantial reduction in shoot growth. Rural poverty, poor technology adoption. Least interested to participate. No capacity to invest even in low input technologies. Poor market access and unfavorable policies. Poor soil fertility, a social, economic and biophysical problem. Land is the object of competition in a number of potentially overlapping ways, as an economic asset, as a connection with identity and social legitimacy, and as political territory. Competition over land and its resources is at the center of the nexus between land and conflict. Cultural practices, good intentions. The first factor of Israel's success was the government's total commitment to agricultural development and strong leadership. Agricultural development. Without leadership would have been no agriculture in the Jordan Valley Desert. The only available water is 1 kilometer below the ground, or in the Negev Desert.
There are a maximum of 7-star moon alignments, but observing only the Lemhi moon alignment of March to April is enough for weather forecasting. In Borana, observation of the constellation of celestial bodies takes place in the month of Beera, September, on the 14th and 15th full moon day at 9 p.m. in order to predict the weather for the main rainy season 6 months in advance, Biodiversity, Camissa, Bufa. The rainy season weather forecast is made in month of Biodiversity, March, April, on first and second day of moon at sunset time.
How does the moon phase affect plants? Can moonlight affect plant growth? Permaculture principles. While it may not be as widely recognized yet, it is becoming more clear that the moon also affects the flow of water through plants. Sap moves more vigorously during the waxing phase as the moon grows to full, and slows down as the moon wanes to a thin morning crescent. It depends on what you are planting. Some crops do better when planted before a full moon, waxing phase, while other crops do better when planted after a full moon, waning phase. What does the moon have to do with planting? For example, moon-based planting calendars suggest sowing seeds for crops that yield an above-ground harvest when the moon is increasing, going from new moon to full moon. Root crops, on the other hand, are best planted during the waning moon, going from full moon to new moon. What are the moon signs for planting? When possible, plant seed while the moon is in the fruitful signs of Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. The next best signs are Taurus and Capricorn. Fruits and vegetables gathered just before full moon in the second quarter will usually stand shipment much better than others. There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oran Lions. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family, or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment, food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities.